25 points. She's 55 points out of a qualifying spot.
With that qualifying spot also being held by her twin sister, Sydney Wells, at the moment.
Ashley Giroux will be in lane number 8. Keep an eye on her. She has an extensive gymnastics background.
And does not like camera time, apparently. But things she wanted to see was gymnastics and tricky skill work. She's getting all of that in test number 6.
Only 7 women have finished this test inside the time cap. Samantha Pugh did it the quickest. 10 minutes, 46 seconds is the time to beat. Only 12 women have gotten through the gymnastics portion of this test.
And that's the biggest part of this test in test number 6. And rightly so. We've seen weightlifting, we've seen odd objects, we've seen heavy sled pulls. We've seen a lot of tests that favor or could favor a bigger, stronger athlete. This test is one for the gymnasts. The ones that have, and not necessarily gymnasts in particular, but the ones that have been working on these high-skilled gymnastics.
Brooke Wells' judge's hand is in the air. She now has 2 reps remaining on these 20 initial overhead squats, and she will be one of the first women to the rower, along with Emma Harvang in lane number 7.
Now the thing for Brooke Wells is that, John, as you said, 55 points out of a qualifying position. It is not impossible for her to make it there. The problem is, most of the events you would have thought she would have banked high finished places have already gone past us for the majority of them. Today is a mixed bag for Brooke Wells. Not really known for her upper body pulling stamina and strength. Legless rope climb event from last year being an example of that, but also on the flip side, one of the best athletes we have in the sport when it comes to being inverted with handstand walks or handstand push-ups. So I'm very curious to see how Brooke Wells responds to this, because this is a tough test for her to get up inching closer to a qualifying spot.
Brooke Wells is towards the front along with Emma Harvang, who's over in lane number 7. Harvang coming in 24th place overall with 203 total points, so she's 77 points out of a qualifying spot.
This is her first year actually getting past quarterfinals, finding her way onto the semifinal competition floor. Background in Olympic lifting, part of the U.S. Warrior Fitness team actually back in 2021.
Let's bring in Mike Arsenault down on the competition floor.
Jessica Swartz currently in 28th spot. She started CrossFit back in 2012, in the 2012 Open. That's when she turned 14, so she was able to take on that first event, which was 7 minutes of burpees. She did it with her dad. She got 95, her dad got 100. She did it every single day until the close of the first event to try and beat her dad. She didn't, but that competitive mindset was set very early, and here she is 13 years later, still competing, trying to book a spot to the CrossFit Games. 28th right now, but just that love of competition since she was an early teenager. Now she's in her mid-20s.
It's wild when you say 13 years of experience, only being 25 years old. Okay.
Well, right away, seeing a lot more proficiency on this part of the test than we have in prior heats. And there is Ashley Giroux, pardon me. Looking for her name here on the sheet, along with Emma Harvang. The two of them side by side will make it now to the 2 seated rope climbs. And there goes Ashley.
It's going to be a callback for the 2022 CrossFit Games that we did not get to see. The infamous Alpaca event that was supposed to kick off the last day of competition there in Madison, Wisconsin. We were unable to do this actual movement because of the rain on the ropes, and now we're bringing it back here in semifinals.
Top 3 on the screen. Jessica Androzek on the left side. She is in 3rd place behind Giroux and Harvang. And the standard here is pretty simple. You have to get your hands at or above that pink mark at top, and then you have to climb down, and both hands have to be below the other pink mark before you can touch the ground. And Ashley Giroux has no problems with those 2 reps, and now she moves to the wall-facing handstand push-ups. So 20 reps here, and then it's back through.
There's a lot of little nuances here when it comes to these movements. When you look at the pirouettes, the legless rope climbs from a seated position, and especially these wall-facing handstand push-ups, as Giroux just makes them look insultingly easy at the moment. But we talked about execution, right? Execution, good positions. All of these movements have a compounding effect on each other. So if you're not efficient here, it's going to have a much more dramatic effect going down the line.
Meanwhile, Brooke Wells down in lane number 5 has yet to attempt to climb. This will be her first try here. One down if she can get below and hold control. So Brooke Wells, that's a good rep. Meanwhile, Ashley Giroux is running away with this thing. She's back on the rope climb. Samantha Pugh, who has our score to beat at 10:46, needed just 4 minutes to get through all the gymnastics. I think Giroux is on that pace, if not better than that pace right now.
And I didn't think that was actually possible what Pugh was doing out on the field in the previous heats. Going unbroken end to end on the pirouettes, big sets on the wall facing handstand push-ups. And it's coming down to the second half. These two seated legless rope climbs on the back half of this pyramid style chipper is going to be a big deciding factor on who can separate themselves from the rest of the field.
Ashley Giroux in 26th place coming in, 198 points. In the prior heats, we've seen athletes take sizable amounts of rest on this portion of this test, and Ashley Giroux is ripping through this portion.
And there's a huge confidence factor that comes into play here, because if you hop up to the rope just a second too soon, you could lose minutes in this test. And that I said about minefields coming in and a no rep. That's the challenge, that's the game you have to play. And athletes, here's the thing though, Sean, athletes in this heat, in this fourth heat of 6, these are the athletes that are gonna have to gamble a little bit if they wanna give themselves an opportunity to get in a qualifying position. Unfortunately for Giroux, it didn't pay off on that rep. And here's the problem. You said athletes waiting for maybe minutes on end in between. That's what's gonna have to happen now. Nearly a full complete rep, her last seated legless rope climb. And now she's just gonna have to sit there and wait. And part of that too is a confidence thing. It's a grip thing, obviously it's a failure fatigue thing, but she thought she was ready, and then the rope decided for her. Now what do you do?
Well, Ashley Giroux is still in the lead here in this heat. Emma Harvang next to her on the right side is pushing her for that top spot, and then Jessica Androsik on the left side is in 3rd place. Looks like Ashley Giroux is set to try to get her second and final seated legless rope climb done. And it should be smooth sailing for her if she can get past this portion.
Now on the way up, you don't have to keep a seated L position. It doesn't have to be hand over hand. You can use that kip style.
She's got to get her, no, so close.
And when we said minefield, this is exactly what we're talking about. We're saying overhead squats unbroken, great row, made the pirouettes look like she was just walking upright. 2 sets on the wall facing handstand push-ups, and now here we are.
Well, Lexi Neely is through the gymnastics portion on the rig, and now she's got to get through these 3 pirouettes and back to the rower. It does look like Samantha Pugh's time of 10:46 is going to stand here. And now we have to see if we can have any more women finish this event inside the 60-minute time cap. We've only had 7 so far. And now in lane number 3, that's Danielle Perrin, who has a test win. Perrin took test number 4 with that snatch at 210 pounds. And that happened on Saturday here. That was a fun test to watch.
Man, the last 20 or 30 seconds of test 4 was absolutely insane. And then you flip over to test 5 and just a sprint to the finish. We were talking to Adrian Boston this morning. He's like, who knew that running on a treadmill could be so exciting?
Lexi Neely on the right, Danielle Perrin on the left, the 2 leaders now, the only 2 women so far who have gotten through the rope climbs and wall-facing handstand pushes. Now here comes Brooke Wells. Brooke Wells has gotten herself through, and she is on to her pirouettes.
As we said earlier,
this is big.
55 points out of an 11th place qualifying position. Does not need to make it all up here. With the scoring table that we have, like we said, there's so many things that can happen in this competition. If you can cut the deficit in half, 25 points. Sean, that's only the difference between 10 or 12 places on the leaderboard as it stands. Now, that's in the upper echelon scores, and we're separating by 3 or 2, but you cut that test in half, or that deficit in half. Coming up after this, that very fast finale, the same type of things can happen. Usually as the athletes in a big deficit, they'll try to make it all up in one play, as we're talking football.
Still a couple months off. Jessica Androsic is on to the rower now as well. We have 4 women here in this 4th of 6 heats. On to the second and final 500-meter row. Hands in the air for both Neely and Perrin. Neely's done. And now she has 20 overhead squats to close this thing out.
Now these 20 overhead squats are going to be drastically different than the first 20 that we had. Shall we call that range of motion no doubters?
Neely in the lead here. Here comes Perrin in lane 3. And again, she snatched 210 yesterday to win test number 4. And she's moving that weight very quickly.
Oh, that's the one thing for Neely. Neely looks very good at the top part of your screen, but Perrin walking in with that 210 snatch, that overhead squat's not going to be much of a problem for her. So Neely is just to make sure she's not wasting any time on these last 10 reps.
Second place in this event is up for grabs because the next best time is Lindsey Porter at 13:29.80 seconds. Final 2 reps for Lexi Neely. And Lexi Neely's going to take heat 4. 12:37.59 seconds for her. Brooke Wells on the right side of the screen. She's onto the barbell. Danielle Perrin is in. Perrin will have the 3rd best time in this test, 12:46.51.
Got to push the pace here. Seconds are going to matter with a field of 60 athletes. Seconds could be the difference between multiple places on the leaderboard. We're talking 10, 12 points possibly.
Brooke Wells through her first set of 10.
With 5 more reps to go, it's a little quiet out there, Orlando. Moving into her final 2
Now last rep for Brooke Wells. And she's in. And right now, that'll be the 5th best time in this test, 13:35.80 seconds. Meanwhile, Ashley Giroux finally got through her rope climbs. This is a replay that you're looking at. And she is now done with her handstand walk there on the right side of your screen. So Ashley Giroux, who looked like she might set the time to beat,
but that
hit
rope,
a landmine.
But that rope climb, I mean, we're talking 4 minutes on a rope climb for that one failed rep at the end. And that's the scary part about this test, Sean. As we said, this is an absolute minefield out here, and you don't know where it's going to happen.
After Brooke Wells came across the finish line, we now have 10 women who have finished this test inside the time cap with 2 heats remaining, and it's still Samantha Pugh with the best time at 10:46. As Jessica Androsic is on the back half now of her final 20 overhead squats, and she has about a little more than a minute here to get those done.
We got less than a minute. 55 seconds remaining for our athletes. Just 5 less than 5 to go.
This will be the final rep. Androsic, she is in.
Androsic had a great performance kicking off yesterday morning on Semifinals Linda.
4 women on the rower here. From top to bottom, Sarah Hogue, Jessica Schwartz, Ashley Giroux, and Emma Harvang.
Athletes will get 1 rep for every 100 meters that they complete.
The final seconds here in heat number 4, and that will do it. Lexi Neely will take the heat, 12:37 1:58.59 seconds right now. That is the second best time that we have seen in test 6.
Door was wide open for Lexi Neely. She was first off the rig on that second set of seated legless rope climbs. But the last over at squats, Piran was trying to chase her down, but 10 unbroken each time. Good positioning, great squat, great depth, great finish.
So Lexi Neely looking to work her way up the overall standings, doing herself a favor as we have 2 heats remaining here in test 6.